Hi, this is Lara at Elliott Wave Stock Market with a free Dow analysis for the trading week ending Friday 21st of January for you. I'm going to go over quickly my historical count. This is on a big picture chart going back to the 70s. I haven't put the subdivisions in here, but we certainly can see a 5-wave impulse, and this is on a logarithmic scale as well, for this very long sustained rise. So I've put a cycle degree wave 5 here. Now I have a main wave count and I have an alternate which has cycle degree wave 5 up here, which I actually slightly prefer, but it has an important implication. So this will remain my main wave count until my alternate is confirmed, and at that stage I'll switch to using the alternate. This main wave count has this long cycle degree 5 waves, followed by an expanded flat correction, an A, B that ends beyond A is a 154% correction of A, and we're expecting now a C wave, which, because B is such a long length in relationship to A, C should continue that pattern and be 2.618 the length of A, which would take us down to 2,278. Wave A lasted a Fibonacci 3 years, wave B lasted a Fibonacci 5 years. If wave C continues that pattern and takes a Fibonacci 8 years, it will end in the end of 2015. This point, and this point on a monthly chart a little bit closer up is this point, and this point, showing the subdivisions of the waves here. This is most easily seen as a correction. We can see this as either an impulse or a correction. We can see a 5 waves up for A, a brief little B, and another 5-wave structure up for C, and within 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is possible to see this downwards wave as an impulse, but we have what looks like a 3-wave structure for wave 3 at intermediate degrees. So for that reason, I've developed an alternate, and this is my alternate wave count, which I actually slightly prefer. Same chart, instead of 5 being over here, we've got 3, 4, 5. We certainly can see this upwards piece of movement as an impulse with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this downwards piece of movement is most easily counted as a correction. Now we have an A, B, and then within C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually prefer labelling the subdivisions in this way. I would expect for this very long rise, and remembering that long-term monthly chart, prices were a lot lower prior, and this rise has been going on for a long time. If this correction was over here, it would be remarkably brief and shallow. Now that is possible, and it is possible that this is a 1, 2, 3, and so on, continuing on upwards. But the reason why I don't think that's the case is wave behaviour. This strong, steep fall is quite impulsive compared to this long, choppy, slow rise. So I expect this was an A wave and this is a B wave. If this is a flat correction, and it must be if A is subdividing into a 3-wave structure, the only other possibility would be a triangle, and I don't expect that's going to be the case because the positioning in the big picture is incorrect for a triangle. So if this is a flat correction, wave B must reach 90% the length of A, so that gives us a minimum upwards requirement for this B wave of 13,425.3 points. If we reach up to that point for the Dow, I'm going to use this as my main wave count. Wave B may reach beyond the start of A. In actual fact, the most common type of flat correction is an expanded flat, which requires wave B to be a 105% correction of A. So for that reason, the upper end of the target zone is 14,584. And that's where wave B will reach 105% the length of A. So that's actually a highly likely point for the Dow to reach, which would see it reaching new highs before turning around and plummeting downwards for a C wave. So I like the subdivisions. Wave behaviour fits this wave count. The subdivisions look much better than that main wave count. This interpretation tells us that it's pretty likely we may very well see new highs for the Dow before some really strong downwards movement. That's the important implication, and it requires price to move up to this point for this wave count to be valid. So I'm using my main wave count here. For my alternate wave count on the daily chart, instead of the end of wave C, this would just be the end of wave 3. Of an impulse for primary degree wave C to the upside. So for my alternate wave count, we'd be looking for a trend change, which would be a 4th wave correction likely to break to the lower end of this parallel channel, and then a final 5th wave to take the Dow to new highs. So that's the implication between my main and alternate wave count. I'll simply continue to label this, however, at this stage with a C until that minimum upwards requirement for my alternate is met, at which stage I'll use my alternate monthly wave count. I have a couple of targets for the end to this upwards movement. Either way, this is an expiring trend. We've got continuing divergence as price trends higher and MACD trends lower. And it's choppy and it's overlapping and it's range bound. It's in a relatively small range. There's not a lot of volume and volatility here at the moment. The first target, 11,974 points, is where wave 5 pink, starting here within 5 blue, will reach 1.618, the length of 3 pink. At 12,084 points, wave 5 blue will reach equality with wave 1 blue. The second target zone at 12,397 is where wave 5 pink will reach 2.618, the length of wave 3, and at 12,479 wave 5 blue will reach equality with 3 blue. So that's how I've worked out those two upper targets. I expect that when we see this downwards trend, it should breach this lower end of this trend channel. We'll have a trend change at primary degree for the main wave count confirmed when price moves below 10,720, because at that stage it can't be a fourth wave correction, it's moved into wave 1 price territory. Taking you now to a 2-hourly chart where this green 4 down here is this 4 down here, and as expected from last analysis, the Dow continues to rise, and we're looking out for the end of the structure to try and figure out when we've had a trend change to the downside. And this is an important price point. When we see price move below this point, 11,574, at that stage, it can't just be a second wave correction within wave 5 within wave 5 green. Wave 5 green, and therefore this upwards movement must therefore be over. So 11,574, price movement below that point is confirmation of a trend change. In this instance, I'm expecting we have a simple impulse with a 1, 2, 3, 4, and working on a fifth wave to the upside now. Within wave 5, we have a nice impulse up for wave 1 purple with some nice Fibonacci ratios in it. Wave 3 aqua is 18 points longer than equality with wave 1, but wave 5 aqua is 2 points longer than 0.382, the length of wave 1. A second wave correction, we should be working on a little bit more upwards movement to start the trading week for a final fifth wave to complete a 5-wave structure up from this point here to end wave 3 purple. Then we'll have a fourth wave that cannot move into wave 1 price territory. If it does and we continue to see this overlapping structure, then we may be looking at an expanding ending diagonal. We may have had an ABC for 1, 2, we may be looking at an A, B, and so on up for 3. That is another possibility that I haven't charted yet. That would require a fourth wave that should overlap into wave 1 price territory. So if the next downwards wave is a very strong 3 and it ends up in this price territory, then I'd be looking at an expanding ending diagonal with a 1, 2, and then within 3, A, B, C, and a 4 to move into 1. That's another possibility. I'll simply leave it charted as this, however, because I think this may be a little bit more likely. We should start with another little push up, a fourth wave correction, and a final wave to the upside, probably towards that first target on the daily chart. Either way, the structure, no matter how we label it, since the end of that fourth wave at green degree, requires further upwards movement to complete it. We can't see a complete diagonal or a complete impulse, so these are the only two options that this form can take. So we need a little bit more upwards movement before a trend change that we've been waiting for. I hope this helps you in your trading. If you would like daily analysis of the S&P 500, you'll find it on my site.